Sup y'all, and welcome to Regional and Interregional Interactions, Part 2. In this video, we're going to look at the worlds of Islam and ask this essential question. How did Islam begin and then expand into a dominant civilization? In the center of Arabia, nomadic Arabs, known as Bedouins, had inhabited the region for centuries. They were polytheistic with elements of animism in their beliefs and valued ancestor veneration. The Bedouins also benefited from an advantageous relative location between the major trade routes of the Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean, and as a result, several diverse commercial cities had formed in their region. One of those key cities was Mecca, which possessed the holy Kaaba, a shrine to over 300 deities, but where one god in particular had gained notoriety: Allah. And thousands of people from hundreds of miles around made a pilgrimage to the Kaaba in Mecca each year. Then, in the year 570, Muhammad ibn Abdullah was born. In time, he became a trader and married a wealthy widow, fathering 6 children. Seeking fulfillment, Muhammad would withdraw to meditate, and around 610 he began to experience revelations, convincing him that Allah had chosen him to be his messenger. Over the next 2 decades, Muhammad recorded these revelations in the Qur'an, which is Islam's holy book, and is intended to be read in its original Arabic text in order to truly hear the voice of God. With its influence and roots in Judaism and Christianity, Muhammad professed an Abrahamic and monotheistic religion. Although it is not traditional to depict Muhammad, in this Persian painting you can see him leading Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and others in prayer. Islam, in fact, means submission to the will of Allah, and Muslim means one who submits. The Ummah is the entire society of Islam, meaning it is a nation by belief, but not by place, language, ethnicity, or any other dividing characteristic. This is the foundation for Islam to be a universalizing or proselytizing religion in which all people are welcome. In this regard, it is very similar to Christianity, and helps explain why both religions have spread so much into modern times. According to the Quran, there are 5 pillars of Islam, or 5 essential requirements for all believers. The first pillar is the Shahada, their creed, which states there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger. The second pillar is ritual prayer 5 times a day in the direction of Mecca, in order to remind them constantly that they are in the presence of God. The third pillar is a month of daytime fasting known as Ramadan, providing an opportunity for purification and to be reminded of the needy. This leads to the fourth pillar of charity, or almsgiving. In this term, alms refers to money given to the poor. And fifthly, the able-bodied Muslims with enough money or means are required to make a pilgrimage to Mecca, known as the Hajj, where followers put on identical white clothing and reenact the actions of Muhammad's farewell pilgrimage prior to his death. A final requirement, which is sometimes called the 6th pillar, is jihad, meaning struggle. The greater jihad can be of the heart or soul, combating internal and evil desires, or of the hand, choosing to do what is right, or even of the tongue or pen, in which you spread the message. There is also the lesser jihad, which is jihad of the sword or holy war, in which the Quran authorized armed struggle against non-believers. Muhammad's teachings upset many of the Meccan elites, the Quraysh. As a result, he and his followers emigrated to Yathrib, later named Medina, the city of the Prophet. Muhammad became a political and religious leader, unlike Jesus, who was solely a religious leader. Through force, Muhammad and his followers exiled, killed, or enslaved opposing forces in and around Arabia, and as a result, the Nation of Islam grew in numbers and territory. In 630, Muhammad peacefully returned to Mecca and stated that the Kaaba was a shrine to Allah only. Within the world of Islam, Sharia, meaning a path to water or the source of life, regulated all aspects of life. It was a set of religious and civil laws, unlike the world of Christendom in which these laws were separate. After Muhammad's death in 632, the Ummah was kept together through external expansion. Merchants were attracted to the faith as they sought to gain access to valuable trade routes and territory. Over time, Arab armies defeated the Sassanids in Persia, gained the southern part of Byzantium, as well as Spain, and expanded eastward up to the Indus River. By 751, the Arabs defeated the Chinese in a battle, halting China's westward advance. The Islamic Empire initially did not impose their religion on others or require assimilation. They allowed many to freely practice their religion as long as they paid a tax, since non-Muslims couldn't serve in the military. Nonetheless, Islam attracted many to convert. Zoroastrians, Jews, and Christians in their territories saw several similarities to their own faiths. Since Islam is monotheistic and includes fasting, rituals, a divine revelation, the concepts of heaven and hell, as well as a final judgment. From early stages, the Islamic community was bolstered by a powerful state, and this also attracted people to convert, so they could gain social mobility and access to wealth as well as power. For instance, in Persia, around 80% converted from 750 to 900. While Arabic culture and language diffused widely, some places that adopted Islam did not truly Arabize, such as Iran, Turkey, Pakistan, or for instance, Persia, where their native language, Farsi, is still spoken, not Arabic. However, as Islam continued to grow, invariably it split through a schism, primarily over the question of who should be caliph, meaning companion of the Prophet, essentially the leader of the Ummah. The largest and original group were the Sunnis, who believed that authority emerged and would be selected from the Ummah, and mostly from the ulama, the religious scholars. The Shia, which means faction, believed that true authority could only come from the imams, who were religious leaders from the line of Ali, the fourth of the original rightly guided caliphs, and his son Hussein. They were especially significant because they were blood relatives of Muhammad himself. Under the Umayyad dynasty, which ruled from 661 to 750, the caliphs grew in power to become hereditary rulers, and the Islamic world continued to expand its territory. Under the Abbasid dynasty, the Islamic world grew to become more fragmented, with leaders in several regions, but all who swore allegiance to the caliph. That is, until the Mongol takeover in 1258. Another group, the Sufis, were mystics, who sought to have direct connection to Allah. They professed a renunciation of the material world in order to tame their egos. They focused on the practice of their faith, far more than the scholarly endeavors. The teachings were helpful, but they didn't help much to experience the presence of Allah, in their opinion. In this regard, they were more similar to the Taoist anti-education approach in context of Confucianism in China. Women were considered spiritually equal, but not socially. And this was largely consistent with other civilizations of this time and before. As Islam expanded, geographically and economically, women became more secluded, and this applied mostly for the upper class, since women in the lower class had to work and shop, without the benefit of servants. In some Islamic places, women could own property, including dowries and inheritance, although they were only entitled to half. They could also divorce. Not all of this was due to Islam, since syncretism occurred, and their faith mixed with local patriarchal traditions. For instance, the notion of honor killings of women for marrying outside of accepted families, villages, or regions. Islam may have been the youngest of the world religions, but it was arguably the fastest growing, and would continue to spread over the centuries. From Mecca to Medina and beyond.
Funky cold Medina.